On today's episode of the Broadway Shuffle, former Texas Tech guard Avery Benson joins the show and gives us a little look into what it was like to play for Chris Beard. That and much more next on the Broadway Shuffle. All right, episode 26 of the Broadway Shuffle, and we have a former Texas Tech legend, 2019 Final Four bench star, Avery Benson, joining the show. Avery, my guy, dude, without you and probably Andrew Sorrells, that team would not have been where they are. It's great to see you, dude. How have you been? And just welcome back to Texas Tech.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thanks for inviting me. It's been good. Been married, working, just a normal man's dream now.
And yeah, just so everybody is kind of aware, Avery, Brennan, and I go way back to our college days. I met Avery back when I think I was a junior in college, and he came over for a birthday party, and then the rest is history. We still play Xbox together. We still talk on a daily basis. So my heart was very much broken when Avery left to go to Austin, which we'll get into a little bit later. But one of my dear friends to this day, somebody I still pull for, and somebody that I'm in regular contact with. We're excited to have you on. Thanks for joining us this evening.
Yeah, Avery,
Thanks for having me, big dog.
Yeah, man. So it's crazy. It's been 5 years coming on since that 2019 team, and feels like yesterday. I was actually so funny. I was showing my wife who you are, and I was like, oh man, like the 2019, like Avery, was like, don't burn down Lubbock till I get back. And she was like, what did she mean? Don't burn down Lubbock. And so I go to YouTube and pulled up the Broadway scene, and it was wild watching that, man. What y'all made Lubbock turn into was Project X times 10. It was wild. But talk to us a little bit about like just that team, that journey, and what it was like coming from Arkansas, and kind of how you got into Tech, and give us just whatever you want to share on how you got to Tech and what that experience was like.
Yeah, so obviously I was recruited by Coach Beard when he was at Little Rock, and my senior year they go like 32-5 or whatever it was. I can't even remember now. And they have that crazy tournament run, and I'm about to go play for him. Well, a coach at that level with that high of a ceiling has a great year. The offers start rolling in. He goes to UNLV. It was a mutual agreement that I couldn't go to Las Vegas in the first place. That's just a terrible idea. I like cards. I like having fun. So like, it was a terrible idea for me at 18 to be like, I'm going to Vegas. And then, so we were still kind of in touch, but like we knew it wasn't going to happen. Kirby Holcutt does his thing, gets him to Lubbock, and then he calls me. He's like, hey, listen, like I still want you to play for me. I got a PWO spot. I go out there, and I had back-to-back visits lined up there, and then James Madison. And after I left there, I was like, I ain't going to James Madison. I'm going to Tech. So I ended up at Tech. So.
Well, yeah, it was fun. Tech fans were really excited when Beard ended up here. We were all pretty hopeful after the departure of Tubby Smith. But I remember some of the stories you told me. What was it like those first couple practices with Beard? Because you always, people always say that coaches are different when they recruit you versus how they coach you when you're on the team. And I'm not asking you to badmouth Beard, but I heard those practices were intense. Talk a little bit about those first couple weeks.
Oh, yeah. Well, and it's probably different, too, when you're a freshman. And it's just a whole new world to begin with. So, like, I played for great coaches in high school, and, like, my dad coached me, too. He played college ball. And so, like, getting yelled at wasn't something new. But there's something about, like, college coaching, and, like, you're with other grown dudes, and then, like, a grown dude that's making a bunch of money do it, like, because he's that good doing it, screaming at you. You're like, oh God, what have I done? I should have went to James Madison. And like our first practice, we were playing like pickup, or not pickup, but like we were playing like 5-on-5. And Zyler Smith, who I still talk to, I see him more than I probably talk to him, but he like I got it in the corner, and that was like my jam all the way through college. It was like a corner three, and it was like I just let it fly. I wasn't even thinking about it. And from my point of view, he jumped from like the lane, and he beat it against the wall so hard, and I was like, hmm. So like we get off, and Coach Beard kind of like moseys around, and he's like, welcome to college," and like some other things, and I was like, "Yep, yep, it is. Welcome to college." But yeah, that was pretty much my initiation to college. And it showed me that it was like you don't come in ready. It's a completely different ball game in the first place. So that was my introduction to being a Red Raider.
What was the biggest change from high school? Was it just the athleticism? I know you mentioned the coaching, or was there anything in particular that you could point to that's saying that was the biggest difference in terms from high school to college?
I mean, like, I played with real athletic dudes. Like, I played with Daniel Gafford. He's with the Mavs. I played with SGA, who's with the Thunder. Like, athleticism was always there, but, like, obviously it's amplified a touch. But the biggest thing in college is, like, just the overall pace. So, like, coaching, they coach a lot faster, on the court, off the court. Like, you got to get your schoolwork done 10 times faster so you can make it to weights, not have to worry about it, then practice, whatever. So, like, overall, like, just the pace of being a college athlete is nuts. I mean, and then, if you make it to the next level, it kind of slow down because you don't have school, whatever, and you've been doing it now for years and years and years, so it's different. But that leap from college or high school to college is just nutty. I mean, like, I was 160 pounds and I'm having to guard Keenan Evans. Yeah, right. Like, there was nothing I was doing. There was nothing I was doing to, like, stop him. I was fouling him, and it didn't matter. It didn't matter. So
you were on that team that, the one that made the first initial run to the Elite Eight. That was your freshman year, correct?
yes.
So what was that like yeah, go ahead.
It was like we were old before it became like a trend to have like older guys. It was like us in West Virginia. We're like super old basketball teams. And those guys were awesome. Justin Gray, Keenan Evans, Naeem Stevenson, Brandon Francis, Norrance. Like, they survived the Tubby leaving, and then they decided to stay after a not so very good first year, Coach Beard, just because he had no athlete pick. It was all the team was just handed to him, and he's like, "This is what I got." And so they decided to stay for their last year, and that was kind of our thing. Was like, it's your last year, guys. Like, go try to like make a name for yourself because like it's going to be tough as is right now. Like if you graduate right now, the career you've had a great career, but like you're all trying to go to the league. You got to have a great last year. And they did. I mean, Keenan Evans was arguably the best player in the country. He was just so underrated. It wasn't even funny.
Yeah.
But
that season, I believe that was the one that you and Andrew Sorrells had the alley-oop against Baylor, if I remember correctly.
no, that was our national championship year.
Oh, okay. Well, talk a little bit about that play. That's one that you're kind of famous for. I'd love to hear a little bit about how that went down and then what happened in the locker room after that.
So national championship year, so like Tariq Owens, Matt Mooney, Kyler Edwards, Sean Corprew, all those guys. And we're beating the brakes off of Baylor. Me and Andrew Sorrells, Parker, Josh Mbala. Who was our fifth? I can't even remember who our fifth was. We get in at the end of the game. And they're shooting a free throw. And what was that white dude's name? Played for Baylor, went to Illinois.
Mayer.
Oh, Matthew Mayer.
Matthew Mayer. I fouled him real hard. He's shooting free throws. And there's like 20 seconds left on the clock. And their coach is like, press, like, game's not over. I'm like, well, if we turn it over, like, that's even worse. In my head, I was like, we got to at least break it, and, like, if we score, whatever. And so we get it in, we break it. Like, I'm on the far side. Josh and Bala gets out of the trap, passes it to Andrew Sorrells, and, the rest is history. Andrew throws it up. I dunk it. I'm thinking, I'm about to go to the library tonight. It's going to be awesome. Like, I have a college dunk. Like I'm going out on the town. Like, I'll see you soon, Blue Light, Beer House. Like, I'll be there. So we get done. We end on their end of the court. Obviously, the video of, like, the video evidence of Coach Beard grabbing Andrew and, like, making him apologize on national television. Rough. And, like, the students are rushing the court, and everyone obviously is like, you dunked it. And I was like, yeah, I did. Like, ah. And Casey Aaron, who is one of the greatest GAs I ever had, he's not very tall, so he, like, makes his way through the crowd, and he's, like, looking at me, and I'm like, what? And he's like, Coach Beard wants to see him. He's like, Coach Beard wants to see you in his locker room. And I'm like, all right, like, whatever. He's going to be stoked. Like, this is arguably going to be the greatest play of my life. And, and that's it. I'm fine. I'm hanging my hat on it. So I go in the coach's locker room, and it's just me. And it's not a very big coaches. It's just, like, a few lockers, and, like, that's it. And he comes in, and he is so mad. Like, he wasn't yelling, but his blood pressure was so high. He was so mad. I mean, he was Red Raider red in the face, like, just beat red. And that's the worst chewing I ever got. I mean, just everything. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And I go, and, like, you can hear in the player locker room from the coach's locker room. So, like, the team heard everything. So I walk in, and everyone's kind of looking at me. They're kind of like, you're good. Like, dude, that was awesome. Like, don't worry about it, whatever. But they can't really say it because Coach Beard just, like, laid into me. And after that, we had to go apologize to Scott Drew. And Scott Drew was like,
Oh,
I
man.
don't care. He was like, I don't care. If my walk-ons did that, I'd be excited. And so, like, it was whatever. So we like, leave. And then, dude, we get to the library, and Sports Center is on. And there it is, like, the clip of Andrew Sorrells having to apologize to Scott Drew on national television. And I'm like, oh. But the next day, Coach Beard called me, and this was, like, his way of apologizing because he watched film all night. And he was like, they pressed, didn't they? Or they were pressing, weren't they? And I said, yes, sir. He said, all right, I'll see you tomorrow at practice. I was like, all right, cool. Cool. But,
Dude, what a great story.
yeah.
I mean, it was such an awesome moment. Beard is such a enigma for Tech fans right now, but you said nobody could question his work ethic and his commitment to winning. Talk a little bit about that. What was it like? I mean, I know you guys weren't coaches, so you weren't doing all the film stuff, but what were they kind of doing on a day-to-day basis in the season? Walk us through a little bit of that routine as far as you understood it.
Well, dude, like, Coach Beard had a Murphy bed in his office. So it, like, folded up into, like, it looked like a closet. But, like, dude, he would sleep at the gym because, like, it would be a waste of time to drive 15 minutes to his house, sleep for 2 hours, then drive 15 minutes back. So, like, dude, he would call me at, like, 3 in the morning. He did it. This is another one of those ones. It was, like, July, like, summer, like, I'm at the Blue Light every night, whatever. And he calls me at, like, 3:30, and I'm like, something's terrible's happened. Like, this is not good. And I'm like, hello? And he's like, what were you thinking with 6 minutes to go in the second half against K-State, at K-State? And I was like, I don't know, Coach. I really don't. I was like, I probably was a real dumbass. And he was like, yep, I'll see you in the morning. And he just hung up the phone. I was like, all right. And like the play was like, oh, I couldn't get a long rebound and they got it. And he's like, why didn't you get that? And I'm like, I don't know. I really don't. That was 6 months ago. I don't know why I didn't get it.
Was it genuinely generally a lot of fun, like those few years that you had at Tech playing for Coach Beard and that staff? Because watching it from the outside, it seemed to be difficult at times, like we've kind of alluded to. But was it fun overall? Because stories like that make it sound like, I mean, things were pretty good, obviously.
Dude, that's like the hard part of any coach in the country, unless they probably do it too much, is we had a lot of fun together as a team. We were always going to eat. We were always like at Coach Beard's house for Christmas parties or Thanksgiving parties. Like he was a great guy, and he wanted us to have fun. So like when we were going to tournaments or like special away games, like when we played in New York or when we were in the tournament in California, like we went to Disney. He took us to Disneyland. Like he was like, y'all have to enjoy this, because he knows a lot of kids that he coaches never had that opportunity to go, do something like that. So he was very intense and very much about winning, but obviously part of winning is having fun too. So he was very good about that, but also once it was time to like lock in, that was it. I mean, that was absolutely it. It was the only fun thing we could do was win. That was it. So, but yes, he was a great. Go ahead.
All right. Sorry. Finish your thought.
He was great at like making sure that we we're in college, like he still understands, like we have 18, 19-year-olds, like we want to have, he knows if he's a strict parent about it, we're going to go do it 10 times worse, so he was awesome. He let us have our freedom. He was like, y'all are grown now. He was like, do what you want to do, but remember, like, you're a grown man now. So it was good though. So
yeah, I was gonna say I felt like I got a glimpse into that on the Bahamas trip. That team when TJ Shannon was a freshman. These guys come in, y'all go to the Bahamas for a week. You play some professional teams from overseas. You play, I think, the Bahama national team, and you guys were just hanging around. The casino at Atlantis. He was really chill. I mean, me and you were spending a lot of time together, obviously. And then the moment the game started, like an August game in a high school gym in the Bahamas, it was like you guys were playing for the national championship again. It just felt like no matter what the situation was, he was able to flip a switch, even in a preseason game, on kind of just like a fun, congrats trip with the new guys. I mean, it seemed like the intensity was there no matter what game you were playing, when the offseason even was. It was crazy to watch, because I don't even know if those games were televised, but you could hear him yelling in the huddle from the gym because there was like 20 people in there and it was dead silent.
Yeah. So we get on the bus to go to the airport. We go to Lubbock, Dallas, and then fly into the Bahamas. We get on the bus, and we're all excited. Like, we're going to the Bahamas. We're going to stay at Atlantis. Like, it's going to be fun. And he's like, if you think this is just a fun trip, he's like, you are totally wrong. He's like, we're going to go. He was like, we're going to go and try to blow everyone out of the water. He's like, are you going to have fun? Yeah. But he said, if we show up and we are just awful, he's like, y'all be ready when we get back. We were like, okay. So, so we get, like, we fly to Dallas, we fly to the Bahamas, we get there. We don't play for like 3 days. That's like that was his thing too, is get there early so we can enjoy what we were doing too. So, like, we land, we get to Atlantis. I love cards. I took like $200, and I made money that trip. So I was like, that's cool, whatever. And I remember, so before I knew Brennan really well, I knew his brother Andrew really well. And if you don't know Andrew, guys, he is just like a speedball on like times 10. He is a psychopath, but he's awesome. And I'm like sitting at this blackjack table, like just playing blackjack, and I just feel a guy grab both my shoulders and just start shaking me like violently. And in my head, I'm like, I'm about to get in a fight in the Bahamas, and like I'm going to be in a Bahamian prison for 50 years, and I'm never going home. And I turn around, and it's Andrew, and he's like, "What's up?" And I was like, "What are you doing down here?" He's like, "Me, my brother, my whole family, we just came down to watch y'all and come to the Bahamas." I was like, "Nice." And so then, like, I hung out with Andrew and Brennan almost every night. We were like trying to figure out like casino games, like
The Sky
watching
Wheel, baby. The Sky Wheel.
watching his parents like do slots, and I was just like, "Whoa!" I was like, I don't understand slots at all, so I was like, "Oh, okay." But yeah, it was a fun trip. But yeah, the second like we got on the bus to like go play a game, like it was business. It was 100% a business trip from then on till we were back at the hotel. So
Yeah.
Go ahead, Brendan.
I was going to say one thing about that trip that you got an inside glimpse of that team was after the Final Four. Was there any hangover? Like the guys returning? Obviously, you had a lot of guys leave. You had some star freshmen like TJ Shannon coming in, Jemias Ramsey.
yeah,
But was there some hangover still for even the coaching staff, like Beard and Adams? And then obviously we know what happens after that season. We'll get into that in a second. But specifically that off season, did you feel any tension kind of rising? Was there frustration? Was it like, or did you feel like the
well,
coaching staff was like, no, we're going and we're going to do it again? Like we're going to get there again.
yeah, it was. It's a rare feeling to get as a college program because your expectation is to win the national championship every year. And we were a minute away. We were 30 seconds away from that. So, like, we had pretty much met our expectations. And so then you start the rat race all over again. You start it all over again at the beginning. And like you said, we lost, most of our players that really contributed. We had Tyler Edwards returning, who was really good for us. And then, yes, we had Jemias come in. We had TJ Shannon come in. But you got to remember, like, even for them, the great athletes, the great ball players, now they're super successful in the league doing, all this stuff. They haven't played that kind of basketball yet. Now they learn a lot quicker. They have different abilities than a guy like me has, walking into the gym. But so it's like, we hit the expectation, and then a month later, we're like back at square one. And it is frustrating, but like that's also kind of the beauty of the game is like every year everyone starts over pretty much, and then it's on. But from what I remember of the Bahamas trip, it was a really good trip. We played good basketball for only being together for like 6 weeks, because that trip was, I think it was late July, maybe early August. And so or 8 weeks, 2 months. So like we hadn't really done any offensive stuff yet, really any defensive stuff yet. We were just building like a straight, foundation for what we do as a team. And so obviously like it was frustrating at times. There's guys that they don't know how they're going to fit yet. And it starts over for me too. Like, do I move up? Do I move down? Like, where do I fit in this year? How do I change? So, it frustrating in a good way because everyone does it. It's not like a unique it is a unique situation because we did so well the year before, but regardless, you got to do it every year. You got to start over every year.
Yeah. Avery, one of the most memorable teams, probably the most memorable Tech basketball team was one you were a part of, that 2019 national runner-up. Talk us through a little bit, as fans, maybe we've attended March Madness games. You watch the team, they run on the court, they play the game, and then they go away, and then we don't see you guys again till you play again, if you win. That team was obviously really, really good. When did you know, and this is a two-part question, when did you know that, like, okay, maybe we have a chance to do something special here? And then two, what is that turnaround like whenever you finish a game and you have like 36 to 48 hours before you play again? Talk me through both of those things.
So when did I find out we were really, really good?
Because you had that loss in Lawrence that I remember you telling me about, that, Lawrence gathered the team after y'all lost in Kansas, and he kind of gave a come to Jesus, although you didn't quite use that phrase. And you said after that, you felt like the team really flipped a switch. Was that kind of the moment you knew, or when did that happen?
Yeah, that was probably the last one because, dude, Kansas, I mean, we were at Fog Allen, and they did what they did at Fog Allen, and we couldn't stop it that night. But the first one was when we played Duke that year. That was a really good indicator that not only did we have the talent, but we also wanted to be that good too.
Sure.
We weren't just gonna be satisfied with making it to the tournament. We wanted to beat that team that night. We wanted to see them again in the tournament, which we almost did, and beat them there. Because we knew they were going to make it far just off of sheer talent, and they were. Not saying they weren't a good basketball team, that's insane, but they were. It was Cam Reddish, Zion Williamson, so. And after that game, Norris got a hold of all of us again too, and we should have won that game. I mean, we fouled Zion out with 4 minutes left in the game. You have to beat that team at that point. But that was probably the first indicator. It was I'd only been in college. This is my second year. I was like, that feels slightly different than last year, even though my first year we were extremely, extremely good.
Sure.
So, and then what was the second question?
When you guys got to the tournament, talk to us as fans. We're just not involved with the preparation. I've never seen it from that side. I've never been a coach or a player. You win your first round game. I think y'all beat, was it Northern Kentucky or who did y'all? No, you knocked off Buffalo. No. Buffalo was the second round game. I think it was Northern Kentucky. I can't remember who y'all played in the first round.
Man,
wasn't Florida in the second round?
No,
that was 2018.
That was 2018.
Buffalo was second round.
Zyler hit the 360 alley-oop.
Yeah, that was sick. I was there. I was sick.
But so when you guys finish a game, you run off the court. What does that preparation look like after that? Because that's an extremely quick turnaround for you guys to get your legs back under you, for the coaches to prepare you. How do they install a game plan that fast?
Well, for a guy like me, I'm not that tired. Warm-ups can be tough sometimes, but if you were Jarrett Culver, Kyler Edwards, Tariq Owens, Matt Mooney, I mean, dude, they're drinking so much water it hurts to watch. They're getting, or IVs. They're just eating. They're trying to replace everything they can and then try to get some back because we still have 2 days to it's kind of later nights. We don't stay up super late going over basketball stuff, but later nights, earlier mornings, because we got to get all that stuff in. But so for instance, say we get into the tournament, we're playing Kentucky. Doesn't matter who. Playing Kentucky. Well, we play the winner of either DePaul or Iowa State. They're doing film on all three of those teams at the same time. They have this group of coaches is doing Kentucky. Then this group of teams or coaches are doing Iowa State. And then this is doing DePaul. What coaches are left are doing DePaul. And so that's about the biggest preparation gap you get. So say, we beat Kentucky, we move on to, let's call it Iowa State. We play them, so we know them pretty well already. We played them twice already that year. We go over their stuff. We watch film. We go over their stuff. We go over our stuff. And then we win. So say you go to the, what would that be? The
Sweet 16 or whatever.
Yeah. So now you have 3 teams that you probably never played before. And now you have to get ready for 2 teams you've never played within 48 hours. Like you're saying, that you win your first round game and you go to the second one. You move on. Dude, it's nutty. I mean, coaches aren't sleeping. Best players are kind of finding that line to how much sleep they can give up before it starts to hurt them too bad to watch film with them too. So dude, it's an information overload, and they're steadily eating and drinking, getting stretched, we're still working out, all sorts of stuff. I mean, it's the wildest. What is it? Is it technically 5 weeks of basketball?
It's 3 weeks, I think.
3, yeah.
Yeah, it's only 3 weekends. Because you have the first round.
So, yeah, if you make it to Monday, so, okay, call it 4 weeks. We'll give it the benefit of the doubt.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it is just nonstop. I mean, and after we get done, and if we had a good enough year to where we feel all right to go out, the second you're done celebrating the year, you sleep for 4 days straight. It is insane.
Yeah. Avery, obviously that game ends in disappointment and everything, and just and how and almost how y'all lost that game is even worse. In overtime, like you said, you were really 30 seconds away from winning. You almost reached the pinnacle. What was it like after the game? Like what is even the mood? Like, is it just shock? Are you guys like hugging each other? Are you crying? What was the locker room like, and what was Beard's reaction there? When you end up losing to Virginia.
Well, you like the pictures of like Matt Mooney, like he can't walk off the court. Like he just is like on his hands and knees. Like it hurts really, really bad. And like you end up just moseying off the court. There's tears. But like no one really says anything. It's not like because there's nothing left. Like it's over. Like those guys played their last college game. In the next week or so, they're going to try to figure out like where they're going to get workouts for pro teams, or they're going overseas, or like the few that I've been blessed to play with, like they're thinking about the draft, stuff like that. We get to the locker room, and about the lead eight on. The second you get in the locker room, or before you get in the locker room, there's just reporters everywhere, like outside your locker room door. And dude, it's like a ghost town to the Texas Tech locker room. What nobody. I mean, it's kind of the winner takes the cake. And in that position, in the last game of the year, winner takes the whole cake. Ain't nothing left. And so we get in there and it's just like dead quiet, not like awkward or anything, because there's nothing to say. Like the only thing we could have done more is score one bucket either in regulation and win, or end up the roles be reversed and we kind of control all of overtime. So by about that time, Coach Beard's like, he has nothing to say. He can't yell or scream at us about anything. It's not about turnovers now. It's not about missed blockouts. He's like, guys, I love you. Like, you guys have a couple months left of school. Like, you got to finish that up. Like, we'll talk about y'all's future, who's graduating. We'll bring you guys that are coming back, like, in. We'll talk to y'all. Like, that's when, like, square one starts, like, the team's rebuilding at that point on, and then the guys that are leaving, coach is trying to help them find their team, find where they're going. And then like a couple of reporters trickle through because they want to hear the sad words of like the Cinderella, Lubbock, Texas, whatever. And then they leave, and like you dress in peace, or not in peace and quiet. You go to the hotel, you pack your stuff, no one's really saying anything. And we get on the bus, no one really says anything, and the worst possible thing happens when we get on the airplane. We sit on the runway for like 3 hours.
Oof.
And now Coach Beard's like mad. Not at anything basketball, he's just like wanting to go home now. Like he wants to go home, he wants to see his daughters, he wants to like probably take a shower and sit in a quiet room where no one's asking him any questions or like having to like talk to one of us. And he stands up and he's like, you see what happens, guys? He's like, let it be a life lesson. This is how they treat losers. Virginia's already home. They're partying. That's what winners get to do. And everyone was like, it's like one of those weird dad moments when your dad looks at you and he's like, I told you so. Because the whole year he's like, guys, when you win, you're treated like kings. And when you lose, they don't care about you. And we sat on that plane forever. And I was like, somebody better YouTube how to fly a plane or something, because like we're gonna just like end up not going home tonight. Like that was gonna be our luck, but we ended up making it back, and and then it turned out to be like okay.
Well, dang, man. I mean, that's, such a fun memory for Tech fans to look back on. Beard, Mark Adams, Davide, Jarrett, Matt Mooney, Tariq, like all those guys. Such a fun team. we transition past that year, and it's still Beard and Mark Adams, and we'll talk a little bit about your probably shining performance as a Red Raider at the Louisville game here in just a sec. But talk a little bit about Adams and Beard. What was that relationship like? How did their coaching styles differ? Did they clash in practice? Like what did that look like?
So Coach Beard, and they'll tell me that I'm lying right now, but this is what I believe. And so if they ever see this and they call me and they're like, "What were you thinking?" I'll be like, "Coach, I stand." I'm like, I'll double down on that phone call. They are so much alike in their personalities aren't quite the same, but they're both like sickly competitive. They want to win. They love the game of basketball so much. They love their teams so much. It overflows like into each other's cups, and dude, they fight. They do fight. But it's out of like it's out of like love, and like
Sure,
they
competitiveness.
want to win so bad that like they can't, they just butt heads. And that's what made him so great. Like that's what made him so great, because at the end of the conversation, they'd be like, they'd figure it out, and whatever they'd figure it out, and they'd go, "All right, now we're both going to attack this thing." And that's where like the side defense came from. That's where, like, I hated it. Coach Adams, this is where they differed a lot though. Coach Beard is all about like the essence of playing, like playing hard, like being just a dirty dog on the court, like no one outplays us. And Coach Adams is like looking at Kim Palm every morning. And so he's like driven by the numbers. And like also nerds ruin sports, baseball, like all that. Like I hate the numbers. And so I remember I was talking to Coach Adams, and he was like, "We let them score 86 points on us." And I looked at him, I was like, "Coach, that was also like Duke, like, like you can't really, like you can't expect us to hold them to the same amount of points that we held to it Incarnate Word in September or October when we held them to 42 points." Like, they got a couple of dudes over there, too, that can kind of go. Like, I don't know. And so I think that's also, like, part of the healthy balance was, like, Coach Beard would pull it out of you, and then Coach Adams would show you what it looks like on paper. So, like, there's no measurement. Like, they don't calculate how many times you dive on the floor or how many. I mean, they do, but it's not, like, a prominent stat. So, or, like, how many times, like, you're talking to your teammate, or, like, the intangibles. And so Coach Adams, he would plaster up, like, the whole Kim Palm series. So, like, points per game, points per half, like, points here, points there, like, all of that Kim Palm stuff. Like, he lived by it. And, like, it works. It does. But it is just annoying. It really is.
What did your Kim Palm numbers say about you? Did he ever put you up there?
My Kim Palm numbers were arguably the greatest of all time. Because the 3 minutes I got, I rarely got scored on. All right.
There you go. That's a great way to look at it.
Avery, speaking of your numbers, I want to touch on this quickly because we have to shout you out, man. The Louisville game in Madison Square Garden, Holly Rose playing with your flow, which I miss, by the way, man. I wish you had the long hair still. But your stat line that game, and I'm sure you know this by memory, and you probably watch highlights on YouTube regularly, but you go 2 for 2 from 2, 1 for 1 from 3. You make 3 free throws. You have 2 offensive rebounds, 2 defensive rebounds, 2 blocks, 1 against the backboard, which was bad A, and then a steal. Was like, as a walk-on, is like a white dude that really shouldn't be on the floor. Like, are you like, when you have that moment in probably the most famous arena in America, what was that like for you specifically?
It was, and like, I can't say, like, a man of faith. So it was like, that was like my time. That was like everything I put in before it, from being a kid to like into college, not ever getting to play a lot, and like kind of rightfully so, because like, am I going to look at Coach Beard and be like, "Hey, Jarrett doesn't need to play right now. Put me in." Like it's one of those things. And Jemias got hurt, and so he couldn't play. And I remember Coach pulled me into the coaching locker room. He was like, "Avery," he was like, "everything I've hammered into you the last 3 years." He's like, "It's pretty much." He's like, "You're gonna still play defense. You're gonna you're not gonna hurt us. You're not gonna like turn the ball over." He was like, "But I need you to like actually attempt to score some points. Like be actively trying to score, because that wasn't my job. Like again, am I going to take points away from TJ Shannon or Jemias Ramsey? No. Like that's absurd. I would never, and I never thought that. And I was like, let's go. Like, okay. And like the few moments, because it blurry, like looking back, it's real blurry. Because like it was one of those things. I remember when I shot my first points were the 3, and I remember when I shot it, and I remember I let it go, and I was like, that feels great. But if it is like an air ball, I am so screwed. It goes in, and then really the only other things I really vividly remember were the 2 blocks. Like I can still like feel that. Like Jordan Norwa was the projected #1 pick at the time. He should have dunked me. Like he should have put me on Sports Center. That would have been the turning point in the game. Like, and he lays it up, and I get a block, and then the halftime one, I get a block, and then it all kind of like melts together. And I remember it was like 2 minutes left. I'm pretty sure I got pulled out, and like it's that feeling. It's like we're gonna win. We're gonna beat the #1 Louisville in Madison Square Garden. Whatever. Horn goes off. We win. We shake hands. I'm not like shaky. I'm not like overexcited. I'm just kind of like weirdly. It's a weird feeling. I'm like, I just want to go home now. And then like I'm gonna wake up in the morning and be like, thank God that like I pulled that off, because I knew I played well. I just had no idea. And the same guy who pulled me into the locker room when I dunked against Baylor pulled me over to Holly, and I was like, what? And he's like, you're doing the post-game interview. And I was like, all right, like, let's go. And the one regret I had, I should have left my headband on, because it kept falling in my face, and I had to like mess with it. I should have just like left it on, but doesn't matter now. And so yeah,
you had like one of the most popular ESPN sideline reporters like touching your hair, and Jay Billis, ESPN's guru college basketball analyst, is giving you praise on the broadcast. I mean, it was so wild watching, because we knew you, and we're obviously friends with you, and it's like seeing you go off. It was amazing for us, and everyone was so happy for you, and just the Tech community, because you were beloved, and it was just great to see. But to do it in that moment, like it wasn't like a home game against Wyoming. It was Louisville and Madison Square Garden, and it's just like, what is happening right now, dude? I mean, it was one of my favorite basketball memories at Tech, honestly, and I mean that not just because you're my friend. Like just seeing, just seeing like a guy of your caliber, and you're a great player. Not a knock on you at all, but you're not, like you mentioned, TJ and Jemias and Jarrett, like guys in the league, and for you to kind of like steal that moment in a way, it's like and go do that, dude. Like kudos. It was just unreal, man.
Yeah.
So like side note, we get on the bus. I knew I probably would have had some like phone notifications, but like I had gotten so many. I just wanted to call my dad and talk to my dad and my mom, because they were in New York. We were going to the hotel, and I wanted to be like, hey, like this is my room number, like come up here. And like I couldn't get my phone to turn on, and so like I forced it to like turn off. And dude, I don't care about things. Like a new iPhone doesn't bother me. I still have like a 12. Like I don't care. And so at the time I probably had like a 7 or an 8, and it was struggling. Like it was hot. Like I was putting it in my jean pocket, and it was like hot. And I was like, oh no. So finally I get it to where I can like open it up, and it was, like when it was Twitter, you'd get like the 99 plus like that was the max it would show you how many notifications. Had that, and the same thing on Instagram, and then the same thing on like Facebook, and then I had like 5,000 text messages, and I'm a guy that doesn't keep text messages, phone calls. So I finally get it to where I'll call my parents, and I'm like, Dad, like, I hate to be this guy right now, and it's not because of this whole thing. I was like, I need a new phone. And he was like, we can figure that out. I was like, all right.
You got a new phone out of it, man.
Well,
Yeah.
Avery, now you know how it feels to be a podcaster. That's basically what me, Conrad, and Brennan deal with every single day. Just so many people texting us, blowing up our phones, saying, congrats.
Yeah.
Man,
Listen, I wanted to tell y'all that, like, I've watched a few of yours. Like, I watched the podcast after the Baylor football game, and I cried laughing the whole time. It was awesome. And not a knock on Tech Sports. It's a compliment to y'all's podcast because, one, I know y'all, and I'm getting to know Conrad. It feels like I'm just talking to you guys, and it is awesome. And I like y'all's podcast is awesome. So
thanks, man. Well,
thank you,
Thanks, Avery.
we try not to take ourselves too seriously. You should see the comments in our Colorado videos from this last week. If Conrad's got some special stuff coming up. I think he was bullied for about 400 comments the last week.
The Colorado internet fans came after me pretty hard, so I had to do some soul searching after that. But I'm back here, and we'll be okay.
Yeah,
you should have told them if they had enough pride in Aurora, Colorado, that they would still have the city and not in your comments. You know what I mean?
Yes,
exactly
sir,
right.
Man.
There you go.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Well, Avery, we've got about 15, 20 minutes, and we have Z. Sorry, what, you gonna ask another question?
No. I was going to do the exact same thing. I want to make sure that we get to it because we're not going to shy away from it.
That's where I'm going, and
I'll kind of.
You go there, Z. You go. I think we're on the same page, but you go and go.
Yeah, so I'll give a little backstory here. So me and Avery are we're friends, and I've moved to Dallas at this point, and I can distinctly remember it. I'm in my guest bedroom, and I'm playing Call of Duty with Avery and Caleb and Seth and all those guys. And this is after all of that stuff the tournament's over. There's all that speculation about Beard and whether he's going to go and whether he's going to stay. And we're all playing, and Avery gets a call, and of course he doesn't mute his mic. And he goes, he says, explicit word. He hops on the mic and he says, guys, we got a team meeting tomorrow. And I knew at that moment, I was like, oh man, I think Beard is definitely gone. So talk us through, that saga, just Beard leaving, and then the process that ultimately led you to follow him to Austin, as sad as that may be.
Yeah, dude, it was so tough because I met my wife in Lubbock. I loved Lubbock. I loved the people, and I still do. I still love the people. I still love the Red Raiders. Like, that was 4 years of the best time of my life, besides my marriage, that, like, I wouldn't replace it. I wouldn't change a thing about it. And I remember I was engaged with my wife, and when we found out for sure, like after that team meeting.
Talk us through, real quickly, talk what that team meeting was like. What happened there?
Oh, dude. I mean, you could have heard a mouse fart. I mean, it was awful. It was just like, because he didn't do anything wrong, and he didn't lie to us or nothing. But it was like one of those things where, like, we'd heard the rumors, we didn't know, we kind of didn't have any feedback, and then, he's at UT. And they confirm it. Kirby comes and talks to us, and they reiterate, like, guys, we want y'all to stay around. Like, we love y'all. We know what y'all are capable of. Like, y'all are here. And so I was like, oh, tough. And, like, I never wanted to feel this situation that a lot of college players have to, is think about playing for a coach that they don't know. I played for him for 4 years. So, like, I know him. I know his family. Like, I know his favorite drink. I know what he likes to eat. Like, I know how he watches film. Like, so I was like, they're going to bring in some dude that, like, I'm going to hate for some reason. And, like, my last year of college basketball is going to be miserable. And what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna be Lubbock's boy. Like, that was my thought process. Like, no more basketball. Like, you're gonna see me out on the town. I'm gonna be doing God knows what. Like, whatever. And so, like, I talked to my dad. Like, he's my best friend. I talked to my dad, and he's like, Avery. He's like, what do you want to do? Because I could have, went and played preferably somewhere smaller, to be like
Sure.
a scorer and like get points and like
Sure.
actually contribute more than just like my certain job, my skill set that I had at Tech. And he was like, do you want to enter the transfer portal? He was like, it's just weird. Because my dad played in the 90s, 80s and 90s. He doesn't know what the transfer. He's like, I don't know anything about it. Like, he's like, or do you stay? He was like, because I know I'm not going to go play pro ball. It's like, Avery, like, you've built all these connections, like, out there and whatnot. And then I got to run it by my now wife. And she was she was like, I'd like to stay in Lubbock. But she was like, if you want to play, she was like, I can have everything I own packed in 30 minutes. I said, okay. She was like, I'll go anywhere with you. I was like, okay. And I was like, well, now I can't really go like back to James Madison in Virginia. Like, she's not going that far. And so, like, we have like individual team. We had like 8 meetings a day for like a month. And I was so tired of it. I was like, I can't even decide. I don't have time to like sit and like pray about it, think about it. So I was like, I can always like pull myself out of the transfer portal. I was like, let's just see what happens. So it's a weird process to get in the transfer portal. You just kind of say it and then you're in it. There's not like a bunch of paperwork. There's nothing really. It's weird. You just kind of like, I'm in the transfer portal and that's it. And a bunch of schools reached out, and then caller ID showed up, Coach Beard. I answer the phone and he's like, well, I know you're not going to like Austin as much, but I'd love for you to come play for me. And I was like, all right, Coach. I was like, can you give me a day? I was like, I need to talk to God. I need to talk to my dad. Like, let me, like, he's like, no, he was like, obviously, like, of course, like, whatever. And my dad's like, Avery, he's like, you know what to expect. You already know what he's going to run. You know what defense he wants to run. Like, he's like, in that aspect, it's a lot easier, but he's like, you're also going to a school that has, the same amount of talent. Andrew Jones, Courtney Ramey, Christian Bishop. And then you got a guy that is exactly like me, that is only about 6'7", 240, and his name is Brock Cunningham. So I'm like,
The worst.
The worst.
pretty much, I was like, I'm going to be the locker room dude. If I ever get in, like, I'm just going to do my job. But, like, that's pretty much it. So I called Coach back. I'm like, I'm coming, man. And it wasn't without, like, I wanted to stay in Lubbock. I loved Lubbock. It was, it was a home. I loved it out there. I loved my friends. I made a lot of friends. And so it wasn't, like, as easy as I'm making it sound, kind of.
Did Adams not want you to stay? Was it like Avery, there's not a spot for you here, or why was it so?
No.
Like, why was Portal and Austin the two options?
So, and I love Coach Adams. I really do. And yes, I had a spot in Lubbock, and I had, and I had seniority now. I had all this reputation built up in Lubbock that, it does carry some weight when you coach. Not a bunch, but some. Like, you also got to sell tickets. You got to play the guy that people want to see. And not saying I was like going to be a 40-minute a game guy, because I was not. Sure. But he told me, he was like, Avery, I want you to stay. Like, you still have your scholarship. At this point, I earned a scholarship. And so I called him. I said, Coach, when I called him into the transfer portal, he was like, Avery, like, if you want to come back, like, come back. I was like, all right. And the problem is, like, when you're in the transfer portal, you can't wait that long, though. because
Mhm.
like he still has to recruit. That scholarship is now technically open. He has to fill it. That is his job. And I call him. I say I'm going to Texas. He wished me luck. Told me he loved me. And I was like, all right, coach. Like, I'll talk to you after I'm graduated. We're enemies now. And we kind of joked around about it. And he was like, I'll see you on the other side. So that's kind of how that went. And then the 2 days that I still have not recovered from, my hearing is shot still. Well, the 1 day is when we returned to Lubbock. True Buchanan gives me the double flying bird.
No, man, I meant to have the picture pulled up. He's giving you all the business.
And
It's so I was almost a little frustrated because you'd been to probably 5 or 6 of our Christmases and Thanksgivings at that point. You were family at that point.
I was at Christmas, Thanksgiving, birthdays, Sunday night dinner.
I remember my grandma, when you entered the portal, she didn't say, "What about the Tech basketball team?" She said, "Well, Zyler, is Avery going to be able to make it to Christmas this year?" And I was like, "Probably not, Miki. I'm sorry."
And like you always shoot around the night before your game as an away team. And dude, I shot the lights out of it in practice. I like, and not any self-conceited thing. Like, I'd shot so many shots in that gym. I left and I came back. It was like your dad's recliner that you wished you always could sit in, and then you finally did, and you're like, oh my gosh, it's as great as it was. And so I was like, all right. And we get on the bus, and of course, there's like 6,000 people out there that don't want us to like leave the gym for some reason. I understand, whatever. We get out, it's nutty. My phone's blown up of all sorts of like wild stuff. And we get back, we show up for the game. I let one fly, and it felt like, just a 10 out of 10, like shooter's feeling. If you've ever had a perfect shot, that's what it is. And it was just a skosh long. I was a little too excited, too much adrenaline, rattled off the back iron, and then I didn't play for the rest of the game. That was like my one shot to stay in the game.
Did Beard prepare you guys for that game? Like, this is going to be almost borderline dangerous. Like, was it?
No, he like, and not.
And what did he say? And what was he like?
Yeah, what was
Texas
Beard like?
Tech? Like, was he like, this
No,
school's
he was like, guys. He was like, guys, I left a program that I helped build to like this bar of expectation. And he was like, guys, like, y'all remember coming into our house when we play them, and I think we split with them when I was at Tech.
Yeah.
But we beat them at home a couple times. He's like, guys, you know what it's like. But he's like, it's not about basketball anymore. He was like, don't say anything on my behalf. He's like, I'm grown. I'm fine. I got thick skin. And he kind of looked at me. He's like, do you have thick enough skin for this? And I was like, no, like, I'll be all right. And like, we had giant speakers like around the whole court on like full blast, like loony bin screams. Like, they just like Googled something like dying animal, and it was just like,
And that was while y'all were practicing?
That was while we were practicing. To like try to adjust, like being able to like hold up our hands and like call a play, because you can't hear.
Sure.
And then obviously, like, that's one of Tech's things. That's like what helps them. Their home court, home field, whatever advantage is a real deal, like it should be. And like that is what pushed y'all extra over the edge. And then like obviously Tech beat us, and like was catching a beer shower when we like walked off, like, and I'm not much. I never really talked, and he can't definitely talk after losing. So like I'm just eating it, like I get to the locker room, like I'm all sticky, I'm covered in beer and like popcorn. I'm like, ugh. And now I gotta like fly home, and like,
was he just like, thank God that's over? Like,
no, like, and it's also like part of the beauty of sports, like that it was louder in there than any other game I ever played in. National championship, Final Four, any home Kansas game, any home Texas game, any game, it didn't matter. Like, but it was oddly fun. Like, that's what you want.
Sure.
You don't
It's a
wanna
unique environment.
Mhm.
Yeah, you don't want to go play and not in an empty gym.
Yeah.
Like,
And you
ooh.
and you knew y'all were gonna lose. Like it was like this. It was like watching the
No,
movie
no,
unfold.
no.
Like you
Don't
know
put
how it's
those
gonna
words in
end.
my mouth.
Yeah.
No, we showed up to win, and Tech played great basketball, and they beat us. We didn't
Yeah.
show up expecting to lose.
No, but you knew. I'm
Like,
not saying expect. I'm just like you knew. Like you knew. What
You knew
was
what you
gonna
were
happen. The
walking
movie,
into, though,
the
right?
scene had said itself.
No, we
you
knew
know.
what we were walking into, but
Yeah.
we planned on winning, Brennan.
I know.
It was
I'm
a good
just
team.
teasing. It was a good. Y'all had a good
Avery,
team.
Avery, you say that you never said anything, but I do recall one very specific incident after a game where you had choice words for a Tech fan, and I won't repeat them here because of our wide audience. But I do remember that. What happened there?
So, I personally feel like I have pretty thick skin, and all the DMs, all the comments I got, I don't really hold it against anyone. I don't care enough. Like, they were telling me, like, I don't play. Like, they're like, oh, good, a scholarship open up. You don't even play. And I'm like, well, I can't tell you I do play because I really didn't play, you know? But where I'd lose my mind and it would upset me was when someone talked about my wife. And
Yeah, it's not okay.
that is what I heard. You know, I heard her name and I heard a few choice words, and then my world went black. And then the next thing I know, I have like a 1 million view video, and it's only like 2 hours after the game, and I see it. My dad sees it, and my dad's like, "You are such an idiot." He was like,
I love your dad, dude. He's so funny.
he was like, Avery, I get it, but like, that's forever. Like, one day, if your boss says, I'm not going to hire you because of this, not because they're a Tech fan or anything, he's like, that's kind of what happens. And so I call Coach Beard, doesn't answer. I call him again, doesn't answer. I call him a third time, and he's like, in my head, I'm like, okay, third time's a charm. He thinks it's an emergency. It kind of is. And I was like, so I was sending this big long text. I explained the whole situation, even though he doesn't care. He's like, you're supposed to be better than that anyways. And I tell him, and then I'm just like, I'm just gonna send. I want him to see it from me, and not on his own phone, on his own time. So I send him the link
Oh no.
with the Twitter link, and he texts back, and he's just like, "Okay, talk to me in the morning." And I was like, ugh. So now I lose. Like, dude, I was like, at this point in my career, like, I'm definitely not playing a lot. Like, I'm beat up. I'm like, my body's falling apart. I'm checked out. Like, it was tough. And I was still trying to do everything I could for like my teammates. And so I show up in the morning and I'm like, all right, listen to his words, not his tone. Take it on the chin. Like, you got to wear this one. And I like get in there, and his first words are like, "What'd they say?" And I kind of tell him, he's like, "Let's not do that ever again." All right. And he's like, and we lost. So like, you can't really say anything. Like, you look like a real bum now. You know what I mean?
Was this in Lubbock?
No, this was in Austin.
It was in
It was
Austin.
in Austin. Okay.
Yeah.
And to whoever it was after that game, I don't know who it was. I was in a bad mood. That had just happened. I was in a bad mood. I was not a nice human to some Tech fans that were trying to be nice right outside the locker room. And I ended up talking to him a little bit. I do apologize for my behavior at that point.
And I'm glad you
Don't
said that
take the high
because
road here, Avery.
they
Dig in.
for
Dig
sure
in.
subscribe to this podcast. So
And so, like, if you ever, if you ever see me again, be like, hey, that was me outside the locker room. We stopped you. I know it was a husband and a wife and maybe their kid. And I was so, like, I walked away and I felt bad because they're like, Avery, no, like, Avery. And I was like, don't say the wrong thing right now. Like, I'm in my street clothes now.
Yeah.
Like,
dude,
And-
we're we're coming to the end here. And obviously for Tech fans, just to kind of put this in, like, I don't think anyone, I know I didn't really like judge you for going. Like, it was like, you know, you were kind of Beard's guy. Like you would, like you said, you were with him 4 years. You were at family events with him. So I don't think any Tech fans hold any grudge about you leaving, you know, and then beating Texas twice that year. It kind of made it like, whatever. Like, hey, you know, like we got our revenge. It was probably
Avery.
sweeter, you know, and Adams was great. But I just wanted to know, like, from your perspective, seeing like Austin and Lubbock, if you just had to say which city is better, and be careful how you answer, but answer honestly.
Can I tell you? Can I fit in a quick story here?
You can, dude. You can fit in whatever you want, man. Yeah.
It was my first morning in Austin, and I, like I said, my body was like slowly falling apart. So I like go to the gym. I meet Riley up there, and I'm going, and I'm behind this car, and how we had to get to the gym, it was a real awkward right-left turn at a stoplight, and you go up and you kind of pull into the parking lot. It's like early in the morning. It was probably 5:36, and it's, you know, no one's driving in Austin yet. Like, that's before any work hours, so there's no one on the road but me and this person that's in front of me. Well, there's a homeless population also in Austin, and it's just now like getting good seeing light, but I can see, like, it has street lights and stuff. And dude, I watched this person hit a homeless person on this awkward left turn.
Oh,
Like, it was on the inside, so she or he was like looking more further in front of him on this left turn than like right beside him, and smoked this homeless guy. And I'm in my truck, I slam on my brakes, and now I'm like close to him. So he stands up and he thinks I hit him. Now I'm a God-fearing American. I have my license to carry, so I'm like in my truck, and I'm like, oh please God. Like, please no.
I'm about to kill somebody in Austin.
I was like, please. I was like, and this guy ends up doing like 4 or 5 360s, doesn't know where he's at. Like, who knows what his business was going on that morning. So I just like go even wider around him, and I like take off. I get to the gym, and Coach Beard's obviously there, and I'm like, where have you brought me? I was like, what is this? But to answer your question,
answer that question.
I fit in the best. I had the most longevity fun in Lubbock, Texas.
There you go. Great answer.
That is, and that's pretty without a doubt. Like, you could ask pretty much anyone, and that would have been my answer. The one thing I did really enjoy about Austin, 2 things about Austin that Lubbock could probably maybe invest in one day, is a good comedy club, and then I really enjoyed all their breweries. I like to drink beer. I'm a beer guy. I don't drink liquor. And so, like, trying all sorts of different kinds of beer was super fun, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And a guy that really wasn't supposed to hold much weight on the court, like, I kind of get away with it. So it was like it was what it was. But
well, Avery, why don't you? You could go ahead, Zyler.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to give you an opportunity to say that you were a sleeper agent the whole time and that you never turned your back on Tech, and the reason we won was you were giving away game plans. But we'll just let that.
We're going to spread that rumor.
We're going to cut it right there, and we're going to say that's what he said.
Conrad, what are you going to say?
No, I was just going to suggest that maybe Avery gets some investors and start his own comedy club in Lubbock. You know, I think that could be something special there.
Listen, you talk about, like, it doesn't matter who you are, what you believe, where you come from. A good comedian, everyone laughs, and everyone enjoys their time together. No one cares about anything personal. If you can get a good comedian in Lubbock, Texas, consistently, oh, it would be so great.
That's a great idea.
And you can call.
We should do the Broadway Shuffle comedy club.
Yeah,
and
stand-up routine.
I had a good comedy club name, but I'm just not going to say it. I'll text it to you guys.
Text it after
Next
the
time.
show. Well, dude,
Well,
thanks
Avery,
so much for being
yeah, go
on.
ahead.
Z, I was just going to say, as we close the show, particularly, do you follow Tech basketball still? Like, do you ever watch Tech basketball? Do you root for Tech, or do you root for the other guys?
No, the other guys. I root for people I either played with or for. I don't have any. Dude, I come from Arkansas. We don't have a pro team, and I can't stand the pigs. So, like,
There
I
you
never
go.
grew up really having a team. So, but funny story, Coach McCaslin was at Arkansas State when I was in high school, and he recruited me a little bit, and so I knew him long before he got to Tech. Great guy. I love him. I wish him all the best. I wish Tech basketball the best this year. I'm trying to get, now that I'm a coach, I kind of have to like keep up with like the standards of basketball and how it looks, like
Sure.
the evolution of the game. I refuse to watch pro ball. I don't care what anybody says. I'm anti-pro sports.
Me too.
I hate
There you
pro
go.
sports. So yes, I plan on watching some Tech basketball this year. Yes, I'll watch Texas. RT was my assistant coach. I love him. He's a great dude. I'll watch Ole Miss with Coach Beard and Coach Adams now. I love them. K-State, Coach Urich. I'll watch them. I know it's a lot of guys that y'all play, and y'all are like, no, like,
Yeah.
screw them. Well, those are my guys.
You're right.
Who else? I'm trying to think where everybody went.
You can just leave it at the Red Raiders, man.
Leave it at the Red
Avery,
Raiders.
we really do appreciate you coming on, man. You had
Yeah.
a lot of really neat stories. I appreciate your time. I know we went a little bit long, but thank you for stopping by. I'll let Brennan close us out.
Yeah, dude, just want to say thanks. And anytime, I feel like we have so many more questions we can get to. So we'd love to have you on again. I know you talk to Z regularly, but it was so great to see your handsome face, man. And proud of you for who you've become after Tech. A little surprised, but proud nonetheless. And so, dude, just like hope you come back on. We're super stoked. Can't wait for Red Raider Nation to see you again. And any final word you have for the Broadway Shuffle fan base?
My parents will probably see this, and my wife. I love them. I want to give a special shout out. I got my Team Luke hoodie on.
Nice.
I've had this for like 6 years, Mr. Siegel. I don't know where you found these hoodies. I love your family. You always treated us great. I wear it hunting. I wear it like right now. I wear it all the time. So everyone, think about the Seagulls. Say a prayer for them. They're a great family, and they're great Tech fans. So if you ever see him walking around, give him a hug. He's an awesome dude. But thank you guys. Y'all been great. Awesome podcast. I'm glad I know all y'all. It's fun.
Yeah.
Keep being yourselves, because that's what makes this show my favorite.
Awesome,
It's
man.
like y'all, and then like Joe Rogan. It's like,
yeah, we're slowly catching them. We're slowly catching them. Well, Avery, thanks, man. For Conrad and Z, I'm Brennan. We're missing Clayton tonight. He'll be back. We've got another special guest coming on Monday's show next week, so look forward to that. But for Avery Benson, man, former Texas Tech walk-on legend, Final Four national runner-up. There's so many things I could say about this guy on a personal level, but we'll leave it at that for now. So Reckham Tech, and we'll see you guys next week.